The time now is 9 o'clock in the morning. Board Secretary, please take a roll call.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Eo.
Trustee Akina.
Aloha mai kākou.
Trustee Alapa.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Galuteria.
Eo.
Trustee Lindsay.
Present.
Trustee Souza.
Eo.
Trustee Waihe'e.
Present.
Chair Kahele.
Present.
You have 8 trustees present. You have quorum.
All right, everyone, this meeting can be viewed via live stream on OHA's website at www.oha.org/livestream. For those joining us on Zoom to testify or listen, please note that we're using a standard webinar platform rather than our normal Zoom meeting format. As an attendee, you'll be able to watch and listen to the proceedings, and if you wish to testify on a specific agenda item, please follow these steps. 1, please raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak. 2, we will change your status from attendee to panelist when it is your turn. This may take a few seconds, so we appreciate your patience. 3, as a panelist, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak, and you have the option to turn on your camera and unmute yourself to provide testimony. 4, when recognized to testify, you are to speak to the agenda item that is currently being considered. And if you begin to address another topic, the chair will issue a warning. Should you continue to speak on matters outside of the agenda item, your speaking time for that agenda item will end. Once you have finished testifying, please mute yourself, and you will be returned to attendee status. In addition, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones. This meeting also is being conducted in compliance with HRS Chapter 92, OHA's bylaws, and the Roberts Rules of Order for small boards as modified by applicable statutes and rules. A few reminders as we begin. Trustees must be recognized by the chair before speaking. Members may raise a hand instead of standing when seeking to obtain the floor, and may remain seated while making motions or speaking. Motions need not be seconded. Public testimony will be called on each agenda item and limited to 5 minutes per speaker, and the chair may fully participate in discussion and a vote. Going forward, trustees can expect to receive the proposed minutes in a timely manner and in compliance with HRS 92.9B and OIP guidelines. These guidelines do not require a verbatim record. Rather, they are to provide 1, information as to the meeting, 2, the trustees present, 3, the motions and votes taken, and 4, timestamps for agenda items, discussions, motions, and votes. In the event a trustee requires more detailed minutes than what is legally required, such as a word-for-word translation, it is incumbent upon that trustee to assign their staff to prepare a draft within 2 weeks of the meeting. The completed draft should be submitted to the board secretary for inclusion, pending the board's review and approval. At this time, we'd like to recognize our Chief Operations Officer to introduce any administrative staff that are with us today. Aloha. Aloha.
Vice Chair and trustees. Our administration team present here today includes Investment Director and Interim CFO Ryan Lee, Budget Chief Grace Chen, General Counsel Everett Ota, Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation Elena Farden, Senior Director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs Hailama Farden, Director of Human Resources Corey Nakamoto, Director of Economics and Business Resilience Pony Askew, Director of Communications Bill Brennan, IT Systems Engineer and Administrator Arlene Aguinaldo, IT Systems Engineer and Administrator Kyle Saucier. Mahalo nui.
Thank you.
There's no sound.
I'm so sorry. Trustee Akaka, thank you. Trustees, any discussion? Oh, okay. Do we have any public testimony on the minutes?
There's no one signed up to speak on the minutes.
Okay, if we have no discussion on the said minutes. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka,
I.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
I.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, trustees, our next item on the agenda is new business. Chair, I'd like to now recognize the Committee on Investment and Land Management. Chair, Souza, and before we do that, do we have anyone sign up to speak on the first action item, which is ILM number 2509?
No one is signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, Chair now recognizes Chair Souza.
Model Mr. Chair, in regards to action item ILM 25-09, I'd like to move for the approval of 2025 Native Hawaiian Trust Fund Private Markets Program Commitment Plan dated September 17, 2025.
Second.
Well, second.
Well, this, I guess, only, discussion? Actually, that's you, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
When you're ready. Roll call vote.
Look,
Aye.
was there a discussion? So sorry.
No discussion, no discussion.
Okay. Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka,
I.
Trustee Akina, Trustee Alapa,
Okay, okay.
thank you. Trustee Galuteria, Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e, Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
All right, Mr. Chair, in regards to action item ILM 25-10, I'd like to move for the approval to proceed with due diligence phase 2 on proposed acquisition of 1,980 acres of agricultural land adjacent to Oʻahu's Kele o Puna Property, Hawai'i Island. This is TMKs 120100001 and 120080016, dated September 17, 2025. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Akaka,
I.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa, Trustee Galuteria, Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move on to action item ILM 25-11. I'd like to move for the approval to proceed with due diligence phase 2 activities for Wailupe, Oʻahu. TMK number 136023006 for proposed land transfer to Oʻahu, dated September 17, 2025. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Can you turn off your microphone? I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Oh,
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka, Trustee Akaka,
I.
oh, mahalo. Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
I.
Trustee Galuteria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele. You have 8 yes votes.
No sound.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Trustees, we're moving on to the next items on our agenda, and with unanimous consent of the trustees, the chair would like to take items on the next items out of order on the agenda. And I'd like to take up item number 20, D and E as the next items on the agenda. Do you have unanimous consent? Okay. At this time, we will now be taking up item number D, which will be the request for approval to waive action item BF number 2583. This would be a review and approval of Oʻahu's November 2025, December 2025, and January 2026 paid holiday break and observances from the Committee on Budget and Finance to the Board of Trustees pursuant to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees bylaws, which were adopted on September 4th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a discussion?
Chair,
We do have,
Trustee, Chair Murda.
I was just wondered what was the reason for waiving it from the BNF committee?
You know what, let's see if we have public comment on the
Oh,
waiver. Is that okay? Okay, we'll come right back to that. Lehu, do we have any public testimony on the item D, the waiver?
on the waiver, yes, we
Okay.
have one person signed up. We have Jermaine Myers.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Kapuna. Morning, Jermaine.
Aloha, honorable trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers, and I'm an OHA beneficiary for beneficiary advocacy and empowerment. I'm also a Nanakuli Hawaiian homestead lessee. Mahalo for the opportunity to speak on this agenda item requesting to approve the waiver of action item BF 25-83, which is a proposal directly from BOT Chair Kele. Today's packet did not include the proposal, the purpose for the waiver. Why is it an emergency requiring a waiver to bypass this BF action item from going through the Budget and Finance Committee under the leadership of the Budget and Finance Chair, Luana Alapa? She is capable of handling all budget and finance items. I understand from the way that the structure and policies of the department or of Office of Hawaiian Affairs that all BF items should go through the BF committee. So I'm looking forward to hearing the sufficient justification and the urgency of this waiver. Ke akuapu, God bless all of you.
Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you, Jermaine. Lehu, anyone else to testify?
No one else has signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, great. Okay, Chair Merida, you're recognized.
I was just asking basically the same question. Why was it waived from BNF?
Sure, great question. So we can have it go to the BNF committee, but we were doing it for our employees, for these OHA staff employees, and we want to give them as much time as possible to be able to plan their holiday vacations and to plan their time off. And 2 weeks is a lot of time given the planning that is required for our holiday breaks. And so we can run it through the BNF committee, but the intent was to bring it in front of the board and to give all of our staff here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs the certainty of what the holiday break schedule will look like for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and give them ample time to plan.
Okay, in all fairness to the Budget and Finance Chair, she had a meeting yesterday, so it should have been, because that's a great thought that you have. So you should have given it to her to present yesterday. We can approve it today.
And the reason why we didn't do that is because the BNF committee is on a different timeline than the board committee. And by the time we brought our agenda to publish, she had already published her agenda.
I see. Thank you.
So I'm happy to move it and defer it for another 2 weeks. And then that will require the board to either approve it on October 16th or October 29th in Kona. But that's another 2 weeks, almost a month, that I think if our staff know what the holiday is going to look like, then they can plan appropriately for their travel, their vacation, their leave, their families. And so I thought it was a worthwhile thing for us to consider.
Well, I just think you should ask the chair. I'm just questioning it because it's out of the ordinary.
And thank you so much for that. Can you explain what those days entail that they'll be getting
Sure.
their holiday pay and so forth and
Well,
and the dates? that is-
Why don't we not get into discussion? And so I'll leave it to the BNF chair. If you would like to wait until October 15th, we can take this up then.
Yeah, you know what? Now that the cat's out of the bag and everyone knows that we have a wonderful proposal before us, and we may, I'm just, again, for anyone here, for our trustees, like she said, if we had just had it yesterday, we could approve it today. And now that we see that it's before us, I'm all in as far as those who would like to move forward with approving this wonderful opportunity for our employees to be to have holiday pay. I'm all for that.
But another option is we could waive it, bring it in front of your the board, have discussion, and then defer decision-making for 2 weeks on it. We could do that as well. It just depends how comfortable we are moving forward with it.
Sure. I'd like to know if, what my fellow trustees' input would be on that.
Well, Chair, if she has no objection, I'm okay with it
Okay.
moving forward today.
Okay.
I just had that.
That's a fair question, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's why, because the timing of the publishing of the standing committee agendas and the board agenda is significant, and it's a it's a weekend. So the difference between standing committees and a board is the weekend and the business days. And otherwise, we could have easily done it yesterday and then approved it today. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right. Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Aquino.
Thank you. Well, first of all, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for thinking about the employees of OHA. I think you represent the sentiment of the entire board that we want this to be a wonderful place to work. And what a wonderful Christmas plus this would be to our Ohana.
Yeah.
In principle, I would generally not be in favor, and I don't think we should be in favor of starting the
Precedent.
yes, the precedent of using the board meeting to have our first pass at fiscal matters. That's what the Budget and Finance Committee exists for. That gives us the opportunity for the greatest research, the greatest due diligence and discussion so that we can have full and free discussion.
Yep.
But I do understand in this case, the compassion and the commitment that we want to show to our employees, and the fact that this legislation is in line with the heart of the board. So I think an exception is in order. I will support that.
Okay.
But I do want to point out that I think
Sure.
there's a precedent that we don't want to do this for everything.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
bet. Thank you. Trustee Souza? You good? Okay.
Sure.
Any other, oh yeah, Trustee Galataire.
So this appears to be a one-off, because it ain't gonna happen next year, right? We're gonna be bringing action before this board
Sure.
with adequate time.
Yes.
So this is a
Yeah.
one-off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just bear that in mind.
And maybe this sets, you know, different administrations have done holiday, this holiday period, specifically Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's differently. And this board has the power to do something different as well. And I think this is something different.
Yeah.
And, you know, it recognizes all the incredible hard work of our staff, and it gives them adequate time to plan and prepare. And maybe it is a precedent that this board is setting for future, future holidays.
Yeah. Okay, Mahalo.
Any other discussion, trustees? Okay, let's vote on the waiver then. And that would be number D, the request for approval to waive action item BF 2583. By our bylaws, this also requires 6 votes to pass. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akaka. Okay, I'll come back to you. Trustee Aquina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
And Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Mahalo. You have 8 yes votes.
Okay, now the chair would like to recognize the Budget and Finance Chair, to speak to action item number 2583 and bring to the Board of Trustees for discussion on this action item. So Chair Lapa, you are recognized.
Sorry, this is not the correct glasses, so I gotta raise the, can't see.
Chair Lapa, before we go to that, let's see if there's any
Oh,
public testimony.
okay,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Leila,
no,
do you have
no,
any public testimony on 2583?
Yes, we have 1 person signed up. We have Jermaine Myers.
Okay, here it is.
Welcome, Jermaine. Thanks for joining us again.
Mahalo. Where's my, Lehua, where's the clock? Oh, okay. Okay, mahalo. I don't see it on this screen, so, okay. But anyway, Aloha, my name is Jermaine Myers. Mahalo for the opportunity to speak on action item BF 2583. The proposal prepared by BOT Chair Kai Kele for the board to approve 6.5 additional days of paid time off, equal to 52 work hours, in addition to the 3 holidays, 24 hours of paid holiday time off, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. In regards to this proposed action item by Chair Kahele, I want to speak on the harmful practice of love bombing by leaders of organizations. Usually, love bombing is associated with domestic abuse. However, love bombing applies to organizations when it serves the same purpose of control and manipulation. Love bombing is when a leader showers staff and employees with excessive benefits or promises to gain loyalty and control. At first, it feels positive, like care, encouragement, or empowerment. But the truth is, it is a manipulation tactic. Once trust is secured, the same leader may shift into criticism, intimidation, or exclusion. This emotional whiplash creates dependency and fear, leaving staff and employees questioning themselves instead of the leader's behavior. In an organizational setting, this tactic is especially damaging. Leaders who engage in love bombing build false relationships instead of genuine accountability. They silence dissent, exploit staff and employees' trust, and use emotional manipulation to maintain power rather than fostering transparency and healthy dialogue. We must recognize love bombing for what it is, a red flag of abusive leadership. Real leadership is consistent, respectful, and honest. It builds people up without strings attached. When leaders exploit benefits as tools of control, the organization suffers, and so do the people it is meant to serve, the beneficiaries of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I urge us to hold leaders accountable for their patterns of manipulation and to demand integrity, humility, and respect at every level of organizational leadership. For these reasons, I humbly ask OHA trustees to deny BOT Chair Kahele's proposed extreme benefits. Kia kuapu, God bless all of you.
No one else has signed up.
Excuse me, for request for approval to waive action item BF 25-83, review and approval of OHA November 2025, December 2025, and January 2026. Am I reading the right one?
We voted on the
Okay.
waiver already, so this would be the motion for the action
yeah,
item, so
okay.
you folks can have
All right.
discussion.
Okay, from the committee budget and for the 2026 paid holiday break and observances from the Committee on Budget and Finance to the Board of Trustees pursuant to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees bylaws, September 4, 2025, Article 8, Section M. So no. Did I?
It's this one. It's the E, yeah. So if you withdraw it, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to need to withdraw that. Kalamayau. Can you please make it really big? Like big. Well, okay, up there. Okay, good, yes. Yeah, I can see now. Can you pull it to the left? Okay. All right, let's try that again. Motion to approve approve the OHA November 2025, December 2025, and January 2026 holiday breaks, observances, and paid administrative leave. I'm sorry, what was that? Okay, which is that? Which part is that? I'm just trying to look for, okay.
Details behind it,
Oh,
justification for it.
okay, yes. All of that stuff, right? Yes, all of that good stuff. So, Oha Ohana, I am so thrilled and happy to be able to share this wonderful news for you folks. to know that the upcoming holiday is a special time for all of us to spend time with our families. And sometimes, we aren't able to do it because of the long hours we spend at work. And at this time, we really wanted to recognize your hard work and efforts. I don't know if this should be the precedence, but let's just see how this first round goes with the holiday break that is coming up. That will give you guys time, as our chair had mentioned, give you time to prepare for a lot of the ohana that you want to be with over the holidays. Sometimes you cannot because you have to be at work. And we recognize that you are so deserving of this break. And we'd like to see that everyone is afforded that opportunity to spend that time with your loved ones. And this will take place starting from November 24, December 24th through January, I'm so sorry, it's the wrong glasses, 26th to January 26th over the holidays. And I hope that our employees and everyone here at OHA would be happy to hear the news about this wonderful opportunity for you to spend that time, that holiday break.
I'll wait.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, Trustees, I think if we reference the action item. Oh, sorry. If we reference the action item, we can talk about this and dive into some of the details. So first and foremost, historically, around this time, October, either through the administration, historically, I believe it has been through the administration, there's some type of guidance put out to staff about what holiday is going to look like, right? And that in maybe previous years had come before the board or had not come before the board. And so as we approach the holiday season, it's something that OHA as an organization, whether it's the administration or the board, need to address what holiday is going to look like. There's different ways you can do it. And if you look at the proposed schedule, we know we have Thanksgiving coming up. There are three holidays that are recognized federal and state holidays: Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, and New Year's. Okay, so if you look at those days, there are days that fall after each one of those major holidays. And in the past, OHA staff, just like any other state employee, would be required to take a number of different options. They could take vacation, right, which they're burning their earned vacation. They could take, they could work, right, which is coming at work. They could take some type of leave if they had leave available to them. So there's a bunch of different ways to skin the cat, but generally speaking, without adequate guidance, if you look at the calendar dates, Wednesday, November 26th, if we just walk through the holidays, would be a full work day here at OHA. November 27th would be the Thanksgiving holiday. And then Friday, November 28th, you'd have to come to work and put in a full day, right, before the weekend. Now, many organizations, especially in the private sector, the military, they give their employees that entire, if we're just talking the Thanksgiving weekend, they give their entire employees off. So that Friday is a day off as well, because we know there's a lot of family activities going on. There's Black Friday as people prepare, the decorating for the holidays, and it goes right into the weekend. So the first recommendation is to give our staff the administrative day after Thanksgiving and that 8 hours of administrative leave credit so they can enjoy the entire Thanksgiving holiday with their families. That's the first one. Then we jump to Christmas. So typically Christmas Eve would be a full work day, the December 24th. As you know, many people celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. And so when you got to clock out at 4 or 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve, just makes it a little bit tougher, right? For those families that start their Christmas celebrations on Christmas Eve. But your Christmas Day would be your holiday. If you look at the calendar, look at December, which also happens to be on the Thursday. And then Friday, December 26th, you have to come to work for a full day, the day after Christmas. I don't like to come to work after Christmas. So you have that. Then you bleed into the weekend, which is the 27th and 28th. And then you have 4 more days you have to look at and address: the 29th, the 30th, the 31st, and January 2nd. All would be work days that staff would have to come in to work. Many private sector organizations, military included, do a combination of two things. They either drop their staffing level down to min staffing and work out some type of arrangement or schedule with current staff. So you kind of go down to a skeleton crew, or you give your staff off that entire time, or you require them to come in and work. A combination of a 4-hour day or an 8-hour day, or you can burn vacation, or some burn sick leave if that's justified. One thing that happened last year, and I had just become a trustee and a chair, was our administration, given the salary I guess the salary disparities that had existed here at Oʻahu for quite some time. There was a surplus in end of year revenue. I don't know if that's an appropriate way to put it, but the administration decided to you know, not gift, not award, bonus. Give a holiday bonus, I guess you could call it, to our employees in the light of the salaries that had lagged for quite some time. Moving forward, it's the administration's recommendation that we do performance-based increases based on performance, and we have incorporated that into our budget. But this year, there doesn't expect to be a end of year holiday bonus as was done last year. That doesn't happen every year, but it happened last year. I guess okay. COLA, cost of living allowance. So what we can do as a board this year is, in lieu of a COLA increase or a end of year bonus or whatever it was called last year, is to do this, is to give our staff and our employees the time to enjoy their holidays with their family, to acknowledge and appreciate all the hard work that they've done for us this year, and that they'll continue to do over the next 2.5 months as we get closer to the holidays. And it continues our narrative of turning the page on Oʻahu being an employer of choice here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and the many things that we've done this year to address their salary discrepancies, paid family leave, telework, flexible work schedule. And this is another thing that I believe that we can do. That is not a unilateral decision for the board chair or a standing committee chair, or in my opinion, the administration. That is a decision that this board should be able to discuss and approve and own if adopted. And that is why this is before these trustees, because I felt this is not a decision that just 1 or 2 or 3 trustees should make. This is a decision that all should make, and that the opportunity for us to express our appreciation for our staff and all their hard work is something that I wanted this board to be able to do in an open setting. And I also think it's an opportunity for this agency to set a standard for other state agencies across the state that can choose to do what they want to do with the holiday. We have the autonomy and the discretion to enact this in this year. Maybe it sets precedent for future years here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, but I think this is a good step in the right direction, and I would ask your support for it.
Call for the vote.
Trustee Kina?
Thank you. I can't disagree with the sentiments you've expressed in terms of what we as a board would feel for our employees and what we would want for them. But I am concerned about our managing at this level from the board table. It crosses the line between the good governance and policy setting that we are responsible for as a board and the administration and carrying out of policy that should be taking place in the organization. For example, in the action item, it states that, let me see, there's no budget impact. And yet, while that's true, because we're not dealing with dollars, we're dealing with hours. And so 52 hours per employee times all the employees is a real issue for the supervisors of our PAIA, who are under the gun to get a lot of work done. It's a real impact on the productivity of each division. Another issue is that we're providing time off without having surveyed our employees as to whether they would prefer monetary bonuses. And I could go on with these particulars, but these are the kinds of things that an administration would weigh. And I would have loved to have had this proposal come to us via the administration in terms of this. So I'm cautious. It's a tough call because it is so good in the way it looks, and it reflects our sentiment and our respect for our employees. But I want to respect their working environment in which the realities that time and money are equivalents play in terms of everyday work. So I'm conflicted on this. I just wanted to share.
And I recognize that. You know, if we're looking at other Native Hawaiian serving organizations, it is my understanding that this is, and there's others that have been employed at Kamehameha schools. And if someone from the administration wants to weigh in on that, I know we have a few, that this is standard policy at Kamehameha. And I'm not sure if Hailama, you were there for quite some time. Is this consistent with what our?
Yes, Chair. So I served Kamehameha for 31 years, 7 months. And in my most recent term, I would say in the last, could be 5, longer than 5, it was the administration's desire to offer this to the folks, knowing and also understanding that most people end up taking vacation on the Friday after Thanksgiving. There were times, if I recall correctly, they gave us 1 week for the end of the year, and sometimes 2. It really depended. It wasn't, I don't think it was a standard, but when I left, and I cannot tell you what happened last year because I wasn't there last year, but for the few years toward the end of my career at Kamehameha, they did give us a week or so at the end of the year, as well as the day after Thanksgiving, with mahalo, and it came with a beautiful message to explain, why they wanted to do that and share, and it was celebrated by the employees. I think generally that's what I felt.
Sure, thank you. I think there's an important part of the action item that I think speaks to a little bit of that, is by announcing this early, and this is early October, right? It's giving, one, I think it's thoughtful planning, and it is considering both our staff and the operations here at Oʻahu, and it ensures continuity of services, while also giving our employees adequate time to plan for their holiday schedules. And it is important, right? When you get time off, especially at the end of the year, everyone's been working so hard. We've done incredible things as an organization this year. Man, a little bit of respite, a little bit of rest. You don't have to focus on and try to, work it and you're at home. You can really enjoy the end of the year, enjoy that time in whatever way you decide to enjoy it. Rejuvenate and get ready to come back on January 5th, lock loaded and ready to go 2026. So I'm all for it. And
Chair.
Trustee Galatera.
Yeah, I find it awfully awkward that we're debating and discussing aloha, the very agency within the government that expounds aloha. Let's get to the vote.
Second.
We're done with this discussion.
Okay.
already.
All right. Well, okay, trustees, any more discussion? Okay. None, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka. I'll come back to you. Trustee Akina.
I abstain with Aloha.
Trustee Alapa.
Yes.
Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele. And Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Mahalo. We have 1 abstention and 7 yes.
Motion adopted.
Yes.
Enjoy your holidays. Oha. Mahalo. Okay. We're moving on to the last item on our agenda. This is also a waiver from the Budget and Finance Committee. Let me just get my bearings. Okay, so the next item, which is our last item on the agenda, is BF Action Item 2582. This is also a somewhat time-sensitive action item, which is why it is in front of this board today. The request is to waive action item Budget and Finance 2582, which is the review and approve of OHA salary alignment with the 2025 Commission on Salaries Tier 2 Department Directors Executive Salary Recommendations from the Committee on Budget and Finance of the Board of Trustees pursuant to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees bylaws. And do we have a motion on this action item? So moved. Okay. Lehua, do we have any public testimony on this action item, which is the waiver?
Not on the waiver, but we do have 1 person when you do the action.
Okay. Trustees, discussion on the waiver. Sure. Absolutely. Same thing. And Trustee Akina, trust me, I don't want to set any precedent. I wouldn't want to be a standing committee chair and having things waived out of my committee, because that's not the purpose of what this is. In this particular case, this is an issue that we have waited too long to address. It should have been addressed at least in a reasonable amount of time after the 2025 Salary Commission report was finalized and published, which I believe was the middle of March of this year. Yeah, Corey. So we should have taken it up then, both Human Resources and this board. For whatever reason, it was not. Had another opportunity to address it during the budget, especially as we were working on staff salaries for every position here at OHA. It was not done then. We've discussed it at different times at the board table that, hey, we need to do this, right? It's something that we have to do. And part of that is the Human Resources team in working with other relevant state agencies to determine the Salary Commission's report and how it is applicable to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Administrative position. We are at that point, and the urgency is that this should have been addressed months ago, and it needs to be addressed now. And that is why the request to waive it and bring it in front of this board so it can be adopted. Again, we can wait until October 15th. That's fine. But I'm moving with the sense of urgency that this has to get done. And it's really up to the Budget and Finance Chair.
So after review and looking at the state of our the CEO's position, salary position, no matter who's occupying that position, and we really need an opportunity to discuss this further, because we have several different viewpoints on the tier aspect, the tier 1, tier 2, and the fact is that are we allowing the Salary Commission to dictate to us, or I thought we are the ones that dictate the CEO salary?
So what I think there is, if we want to have the discussion, and we don't need to take action on the action item itself.
Yep.
But if we want to have the robust discussion now, then let's do that.
Sounds good.
Let's waive it, bring it to the table. Let's have a robust discussion. And if we feel comfortable, we can adopt. If we don't, we can defer
Move it to.
and move it to another date. That's fine too.
Sounds good. Since we're on that topic, let's.
I really, it's your call. If
Sure.
you're comfortable with that, then I
Well, we're
think
here right now.
trustees would support that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we're here now and this is opportune time because I know people have done their homework and would like to bring that to the table.
Great.
So let's do a nice discussion on it.
Trustee Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to encourage the B&F Chair not to relinquish her kuleana over this matter today. I do agree with the Chair that this is a matter that we could have and should have looked at long ago. But the urgency is not here at such a level that it would override the couple of weeks of extension that it would take for us to begin dealing with this in the proper committee, which is Budget and Finance. Because as we all know, according to our bylaws, that's the committee that shall handle all fiscal and budgetary matters and ensure proper management, planning, evaluation, and use of OHA's trust funds. That's a very important responsibility. And by starting with the proper committee, we're able to make sure that there's proper research. As I glanced at the action item, it looks like there are issues that are going to require legal review, contract review, as well as understanding of the structure of OHA as a government entity with respect to the state government. And giving ourselves the time it would take to raise this at the BF committee, conduct the research that is needed, and deliberate over it, I think we can make a good decision. But I would be cautious about starting today with the prospect that we would actually vote on it today. And I would urge the committee chair not to support waiving this from decision.
D'Souza.
Malo Trustee Aquino. Trustee Aquino, are you asking for the opportunity for the BNF committee to do their due diligence on this presentation or proposal? Because what I want to state for the record is this table, these 9 trustees, is the same voting members of that committee as well. So is it just that part you're talking about, having the committee do their homework and bringing it back to us? Is that what you're asking for? Because we all vote, same voting members is what I'm saying. And then it has to come to the board to ratify. So I just want to clarify.
I'm just pointing out that there are questions that I have that won't get easily answered at the board today. And having the time to make.
What would be the difference in a committee? How would that be able to be answered?
Well, by starting this in the proper committee, B&F, we will automatically have more time with which.
We don't have to vote today. We can have that discussion though. And if we need more time, we can always bring it back. Is that correct, Mr. Chair? I'm just wondering what would be the differences if we don't address it now.
Yeah, I would say that I think it would be very productive for us to have the conversation,
At the very least.
happy to defer decision-making. Happy to refer back to the Committee on Budget and Finance, but I think we need to have the discussion because under Sunshine Law, it's very difficult for the 9 of us to do that. In an open setting, we just can't. And so having the discussion, I think would be very, very productive to prime whatever research you feel you need to do or the vetting of information that you think you need to make a well-informed decision. I have a lot of information I can help share with you that I think will help shape that decision. And I think that would be a productive exercise for us. And we can only get there if we waive it and put it on the table.
On that note, we do have our HR director here as well as, is Everett here?
We're all here.
Everett, they're here and it's the perfect opportunity to ask.
Yeah.
If they can weigh in on their thoughts and basically what their knowledge in this particular
Yeah,
area.
I think it'd be very helpful.
Okay, great.
So you're supportive?
I'm supportive of the discussion.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We
Let's
won't
just go
take
with
any
that.
action item.
Yeah,
but
no
we'll-
action
We'll
today.
need to waive it to have a discussion on it.
Yes, absolutely. Since everyone's here, we might as well take advantage of the moment.
Sure.
And let's
And
have.
if you want, by procedure, we can refer it back to, rather than delaying decision on it, depends on how the conversation goes.
Mhm.
It can either be waived back to the B&F committee and bring it back on October 15th, and then we could agendize it on the 16th. Or if we feel comfortable keeping it on the board's agenda on October 16th, as trustees go back and do their due diligence and verify some of the things that were informed to us by general counsel, by director of human resources, and other members of the trustee board then we can decide how we want to move forward.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Trustee
Oh,
Akaka has a
somebody has
question.
Yes, thank you. The good thing about items being on the agenda of a committee and then on the agenda of following it, if it's to be passed and ratified on the board level, is it gives the opportunity for our beneficiaries and those that would want the opportunity to hear about the information that is shared in the committee, as well as testify if they're interested in on that specific item in that committee. And then again, on the board level, so there's two opportunities for our beneficiaries to be able to hear and speak on it if they are interested.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Akaka. Any other discussion? Yeah, Trustee Galtier?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, mahalo. This is more of it's a question that may not be answered within this context of the dialogue. But I'm wondering, for the greater good, why Oʻahu is not a part of Tier 2, as they have 14 directors and Oʻahu is nowhere to be seen. Is that a constitutional question about why perhaps the state government does not recognize us to be in a tier?
I think that is, I see Everett drop off.
That's
I think those are all really good discussions. And we can have that when we get to the subject.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and you know, Trustee Lindsay mentioned that UH is not in here. But we're not UH.
Agencies with boards that have more authority, they're not here.
Yeah,
Let's do the waiver. It sounds like there's appetite.
okay, good. Yeah, thank you.
Let's do a roll call.
Yes. Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka? Yeah, I'll come back to you. Trustee Akina?
A'ole with aloha.
Trustee Alapa?
Yes.
Trustee Alapa?
Trustee Alapa? Trustee Alapa? Yes.
This is on the waiver.
Aye.
Yes.
Mahalo. I said yes. Trustee Galuteria?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza?
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
Chair Kahele?
Aye.
And Trustee Akaka?
Can you please elaborate on what this vote is on again?
Trustee Akaka, this is for the waiver, with current vote count. How many ayes? There are 6 ayes to approve the waiver, so it's just a roll call vote on the waiver.
So the discussion is closed and it's the waiver to waive it from BNF straight to BOT.
Correct.
And that is the wish of the Budget and Finance Chair.
That's correct.
Okay, aye.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Trustee. We have 7 yes votes and 1 a'ole with aloha.
Okay, great. The waiver passes. All right. Let us now place on the table action item 2582 is up for discussion and vote, which we may defer. This is to review and approval of Oʻahu CEO salary alignment with the 2025 Commission on Salaries Tier 2 Department Directors Executive Salary Recommendations. And do we have a motion to approve action item BF 2582?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Souza. All right, trustees, discussion. Let's do testimony first. Yes, do we have any testimony on 2582? Testimony, public testimony.
Yes.
Yes.
We have 1 person. We have Jermaine Myers.
Aloha, Honorable Trustees. My name is Doreen Myers. Mahalo for the opportunity to speak on action item BF 25-82, review and approval of Oʻahu CEO salary alignment. Kapohana Stacy Ferreira's contract 4374 is included in today's packet in support of this action item. I read for you from her contract the mandates which caused me to support the approval of Kapohana Ferreira's CEO salary alignment. Most especially for trustees to consider specifically in regards to OHA CEO Stacey Ferreira. On page 3 of Kapohana Ferreira's contract, it states, whereas constitutional authority for this contract is provided for in Article 12, Section 6 of the Constitution of the State of Hawaii. Trustees, according to the Hawaii State Constitution, Article 12, Section 6, Powers of Board of Trustees, I read for you verbatim the last sentence. The board shall have the power to exercise control over the Office of Hawaiian Affairs through its executive officer, the administrator of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, who shall be appointed by the board. I read it again. The board shall have the power to exercise control over the OHA through its executive officer, the administrator of the OHA. According to the Hawaii Legislative Reference Bureau, LRB, and I quote, in legal terms within the Hawaii State Constitution, the word shall indicates a mandatory action or requirement, meaning it is a must, will, or required directive that cannot be waived and it cannot be modified, unlike permissive terms such as may. Mandatory action. When you see shall in a constitutional provision, it means that the specified action or duty is obligatory and must be performed. Therefore, the board must and is required to exercise control over the OHA through its executive officer, the administrator, and only through its executive officer, the administrator. This mandate cannot be waived or modified. The board cannot exercise control over the OHA through chairman of the board, through the vice chairman of the board, through the chief of staff or deputy chief of staff who reports to the chairman of the board, or through any individual trustee or cohort of trustees, or through its trustee aides. OHA must and is required to solely exercise its control over the OHA through its executive officer, the administrator. Which means if the board creates bylaws or policies contrary to the state constitution, the board is in violation of the state constitution. On page 14 of Kapohana Ferreira's contract, it states, number 17, applicable law. This contract shall be governed by the laws of the state of Hawaii. Therefore, if OHA creates bylaws contrary to the state of Hawaii laws, it is in violation of the state law. Examples of state laws that would supersede OHA's bylaws are Hawaii State Ethics Code, HRS Chapter 84, Hawaii Procurement Code, HRS 103D. In addition, the Department of Labor clarified to me that in regards to Kapohana Ferreira's contract, the Hawaii Whistleblowers Protection Act, HRS 378-62, would supersede an employment contract if the law provides superior rights and remedies to the employee. They further clarified to me that a private employment contract cannot override the protections established by state law. Any provision in the private contract that tries to undermine or waive an employee's statutory rights under the Whistleblowers Protection Act would be deemed invalid and enforceable. Therefore, as you deliberate this action item, I respectfully ask you to uphold your fiduciary duties and recognize that Kapohana Ferreira's statutory rights, constitutional authority, and protections under state law cannot be waived or undermined. Ke kua pu, God bless all of you.
Thanks, Jermaine. Anyone else?
No one else has signed up to speak.
Okay. So let's do discussion on this. And let me start by laying the foundation for it to put the discussion to a frame of reference. There's really two things, contrary to the previous testifier, there's two things that are faced with the board to make a determination on. One is the appropriate, if necessary, tier level for the administrator of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs as in relevance to other executive branch directors in this state? So that's the first question, right? Is that. The second question is a legal contract. We're not talking about personalities. We're not talking about a particular individual. We're not talking about names. It is a contract. So you take the emotion out of the second piece, and we are faced with just looking at language in a contract. That's what this is. Those two things. So let's talk about the first thing. Because the contract, the legal instrument, requires us in the shall, that was eloquently, thank you, Jermaine, requires us to look at the recent work by the State Salary Commission. That's what drives us to have this discussion, right? And that is the shall on page 3 of the legal contract. Not a person, not a personality, not an individual, the contract. Shall include step increases in line with the Commission on Salaries report and recommendations to the 2024 legislature, which ended up to be the 2025 legislature. So that requires us to do now this discussion. So let's jump to that piece. So the Commission on Salaries convened, and it was led by Chair Colleen Hanabusa, former Budget and Finance Chair, and no stranger to us, Wes Machida, as the Vice Chair, and other individuals, former State Attorney General Marjorie Bronster, that formed this Committee on Salaries. And they looked at salaries across the state. Salaries for the executive branch, the governor, lieutenant governor. Salaries for the legislature, all 76 members of the legislature. Salaries for the judiciary. They did a comprehensive study of all basically executive level salaries for those 3 branches of government. I don't know if it's in statute or if it's just practice, to Chair Merita's point, is semi-autonomous or body corporate agencies that are like the Office of Hawaiian Affairs are not included in this. President of the University of Hawaii, determined by its Board of Regents. Department of Education, determined by the Board of Education. Office of Hawaiian Affairs determined by this board. So that's probably the reason why. And I haven't gone deep into the rabbit hole to find a statute that explicitly says that. Maybe our general counsel can find that for us at some point in our due diligence. But these are, for whatever reason, whoever previous board counsel drafted this contract, this legal instrument that Chair, you signed and approved, that language was put in there. So that requires us, shall, to come back to this report. Right? I mean, that's basically pretty black and white. So we come back to this report, and we can hone in on anyone, right? We could hone in on the Senate President, we could the Chief Justice. We decide to we look at the executive branch of this state, which would be the cabinet of around the governor and the relevant directors of those branches. And part of this commission's work, so part of my due diligence was having extensive conversations with the director of DHERD, which sets human resources policy across this state, because I wanted to verify things I was reading into this report and how they came to those conclusions. One of the reasons that drove this commission's work is that in previous years, especially under the IGA administration, salaries of those 3 branches of government had lagged due to the economics of the state and the world, Council on Revenue forecasts, etc. There was a time, even in the IGA administration, when no salary increases were taken by the administration, and I even want to say they gave like a 10% or a percentage back to the general fund at the executive level. In any case, the executive, judicial, and legislative branches, just like our OHA staff here for years, never got any relative salary increases or cost of living adjustments. So that was what drove this commission's report. And I think it also was on the heels of the city and county of Honolulu's commission's work, where they recommended new salary increases for the members of the council that got a lot of public scrutiny and a lot of media attention. Nevertheless, this commission did its work and it came up with this report. And in the report, they talk about the 3 branches of government. They talk about the percentage increases for those relevant branches of government, to include the governor and the lieutenant governor. They looked at what currently had existed before, which was your tier 1 deputy, tier 2 deputy, and how things had been done in the past, and what this commission was recommending adoption in the future. And this report needed to be I don't know if voted down, but not accepted by the legislature for it to not be implemented. For this not to have taken place, someone in the legislature would have to have introduced a resolution to disapprove of the salary commission's recommendations. Just like someone in the legislature would have to have introduced a resolution to disapprove our OHA salary commission recommendations. Neither of which happened. No one introduced the reso, no one challenged it. Sine die came, report adopted, both for OHA and for this much more sweeping report that touched all 3 branches of government. This went into effect on 1 July 2026, the start of the new fiscal year. And the recommendations were as before you. And what I think is important to hone in on is page 5, item A, which was the executive branch recommendations. So our legal instrument requires us to look at this report and determine, because we were left out, or the OHA administrator was left out of this, how do we compare, how do we take our OHA administrator and level them with someone on the administrative side? Could be the governor, could be the chief justice, could be a legislator, could be a department director. We have the choice to do that. The most prudent and most rational equivalent would be a department director or a member of the administration at the director level. So based on this report, you have 3 options. You have a tier 1 director, you have a tier 2 director, and you have a tier 2 deputy director. In the conversations I had with the director of DHERD, the way you would look at determining what the equivalent would be is, well, let's talk before we get there, how you would rationalize and determine how you would I guess stratify or equate our administrator to a member of the executive branch would be looking at whether or not that particular tier had policy making authority. That's very, very important. What level of policy does that position have within that department? That would be one. The second thing would be the level of responsibility that that position would have over that department. So let's think about those 2 things. And we'll start with tier 1. There is only 2 tier 1 directors in the entire state of Hawaii: the Attorney General and the Director of Budget and Finance. 2. Who's the third? Is not a tier 1 director. From the director of DHERD, there's only 2 individuals. You can do your due diligence. I'm just telling you what the DHERD director told me. There are 2 tier 1 directors in the state: the Attorney General and the Director of Budget and Finance. The Attorney General is the state's top legal officer. They oversee the entire legal team for the state. They defend the entire judiciary branch, the legislative branch, the executive branch, all the deputy attorneys across the state. They're the state's chief legal officer. That is a tier 1 director. Then you have the director of budget and finance that oversees a $20 billion budget on an annual basis. Those are the 2 tier 1 directors in the state, as told to me by the director of DHERD. I will stand corrected. Sure. Okay, and you'll come back, and I recognize you, and you can have your time, Chair. Now we look at the tier 2 directors. Every other cabinet position in the state is a tier 2 director. Every other one. DHERD, DLNR, labor, agriculture. The majority of tier 2 directors in the state or cabinet level members are tier 2 directors. Then you have the deputy directors. Those are the 3. Tier 2 deputy directors. What is important to come back is to the first piece. Does the position have policy-making authority over their department? Do they set policy? Are they the final say? If you are the director of DLNR and you enact a policy, do you have to get that policy approved? No. You implement that policy. You have policy-making authority. That is very important. The deputy directors are the execution team in the department. They execute the policies set by the director. So in looking at the OHA administrator, does the OHA administrator have broad policy setting authority over this organization? Very little. And you can give me an example, but very little, right? The policies that are set are at this board table. And any of those policies that are set, if the administrator has the authority to set them, can be overruled by this board without question. So you do not have, you are not the final arbiter over the policy. This board has that statutory and constitutional power to do that. You are an execution piece here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, which is a difference. It is a distinct difference between a director and a deputy director. Deputy directors execute the division director's policies, memos, recommendations, and guidance. They cannot be overruled. That deputy directors execute, directors set the policy. So when we're trying to look at what is the equivalent, because we're required to in this legal instrument, those are the things we need to weigh. Does our OHA administrator have that policy setting authority, or are they more of an execution position? It would be a stretch to identify our OHA administrator as a tier 1 director. It, in all honesty, is more of an execution, a deputy director position. However, I think this board has the autonomy to set whatever it wants. And a director position is probably a happy medium where we should land. That's up to us. And I mean, anyone can rationalize where they would fall along that spectrum. But if the overarching question you have to ask is, does the OHA administrator have broad policy setting authority over this organization? If the answer is yes, unequivocally, no doubt they're a director. If the answer is maybe, sometimes, a little bit, or not at all, it's mostly a deputy director. That's coming from the director of DHERD, which we are our own autonomous body and we can do what we want. But that's how we decide to land on what tier should the OHA administrator be. And that is important because for future OHA administrators, it is important to determine what tier that position is. Tier 1, tier 2 director, tier 2 deputy director, or some other equivalent branch of government that we wanna look at. And Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I respectfully disagree with you. And please note that I worked for the governor of Hawaii, so I am familiar with all the departments in the state. And the administrator director at the time was Pinky Thompson. He worked for Governor Burns. Here in the executive salary recommendations, the administrative director of the state of Hawaii is a tier 1. Now I look at Brooke Wilson, who is the administrative director of the state of Hawaii, answering to Governor Green. She is in a similar position as our CEO. Why? Because she oversees all the departments and reports back to the governor. And that's the same example of the Attorney General and the Budget and Finance. Well, that's the same example as our CEO. She has all the departments under her. She has to have the knowledge of all the departments, not just one. And then you go to the tier 2, and those directors are only responsible for their one subject departments, only one subject. But our CEO has to know all the subjects of OHA. And I think that's a major difference. And the difference is only $10,000. Why are we squawking about it? I don't think we should diminish the title of our lead in our, that we need to make sure that that person is important when he or she goes out and represent our board. Why would we want them to look down on her like a director? You know, I would like for them to look at her as an administrator. And before she came in, the title was changed to CEO for that same reason, that our CEO represents our agency with a lot of status. So I would disagree that she should be a department director. She should be in tier 1, like Brooke Wilson.
I think we should refrain from using he's or she's,
Yeah.
because this is not about a person.
Well,
It
she's
is
the only
about-
one I can refer
It
to.
is about the position. Remember, we are talking about a position and a contract. We are
Yeah.
not talking about an individual.
Right.
And we should frame it that way.
But you see what I'm saying? I'm coming from a place of experience. And I like to say too, that I talked with Kathy Betts, who sits on the same commission with Colleen. And she's the former human resources director for the governor. And she said they always made policies. And she was a tier 2. But she made policies. And I know that our CEO makes policies because we cannot be on her shoulder every single day. To run an administration like ours, she has to have the authority to make the policies to run it. She does.
Sorry, yeah, sure. You can finish up and then we'll.
No, I'm just saying that I'm not talking about big policies like this, but policies, there has to be a policy to run an administration of 166 people. And that's what she does. That's what our CEO does. You know.
Okay, great. Did you want to go? Okay, Trustee Aquino.
Thank you. I appreciate that. With respect to the Salary Commission, I think an important question to ask is, what is the relevance of the Salary Commission to the salaries that OHA trustees pay to our employees, in particular to our CEO? Now, the Salary Commission is relevant to OHA because it sets the salaries for the 9 trustees. Then each of the trustees is an elected public official. And I am on record saying it's a good thing that we're accountable to the state in terms of the ethics laws as well as oversight of our salary. That means that as the ultimate fiduciaries of OHA, we trustees do not exercise the power and right to set our own salaries. And that's a good thing. There must be an external body, and that's the Salary Commission. Now, the employees within OHA are not elected officials. Their salaries are not controlled by the Salary Commission. In fact, statutorily, HRS 1011 says clearly that the trustees hold the authority to set the CEO's salary, subject only to a statutory cap. Now, that cap happens to be the salary paid to the head of a department of the state. But it does not address who sets the salary or within that limit what that salary should be. There are lots of good reasons for the OHA trustees to retain the authority to set the salary of the CEO rather than delegate that to the Salary Commission. One reason is the notion of AI. We are here as a placeholder for a future nation of some form. We have autonomy as upheld by the courts. And more than that, we anticipate continued growth of our trust fund, our trust resources, so that we will have an organization, we will have an entity that requires the highest level of managerial talent. And we're not going to attract and retain the highest level of management talent, someone who could be CEO in a private corporation, if we diminish the standing of the CEO to that of a deputy. And so I think it's pretty clear that the Salary Commission doesn't have relevance, but it is mentioned in the contract. But what's not mentioned is whether it refers, well, I think we need some legal counsel on what specifically it's referring to, but it is not limiting the salary. It is not taking away the responsibility of the Board of Trustees to set the salary. So I would suggest that we look at some of the value that we gain by upholding the position, building its authority and its prestige. That benefits OHA in the long run.
Quick, now we recognize Trustee Waihe. I totally agree with you, Trustee. Then let's all promise to not have this language in the next contract. We can start there. But right now, it's a legal document and it says shall. So we have no choice. However, shall include step increases in line with the Commission on Salaries report and recommendations to the 2024 legislature. We don't even have to talk about a tier. Let's just throw that away. We focus on the salary and we set the salary. So we don't quantify any classification for the administrator. We just get rid of that and we set whatever salary we want to set. It says step increases in line with, at least today. So there should be a step increase. So it would be helpful to know where that position lies to see what other step increases are being received by other equivalents. But at the end of the day, we set the salary. So to your point, like that's another way we could approach this. Trustee Sekina?
Just in response, Mr. Chair, I agree with you. I
With
think we're
aloha.
with aloha.
And feel the love in the air. Thank you. Trustee Waihe.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, maybe Everett.
That's good, yeah.
That's a question.
Maybe Everett and Corey. I think
Oh.
those would be, if that's okay, Trustee Waihe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But mine is probably more for Everett.
Okay. I think both would be coming up anyway, so Everett, you're recognized for Trustee Waihe.
Well, thank you. Everett, I was wondering, because our administrator is defined in statute, and that we have to follow, when they talk about the salary, it does say shall not exceed a department head or executive officer, which means that the law kind of, I guess, views our administrator on that level. Are there any tier ones that, like, you could consider to fit into the definition of department head or executive officer? That's my only question.
Thank you, Trustee Waihe. Yeah, I think the language in the statute, right, refers to department heads. I think that's what is contemplated. I mean, that is the directors that are being described in the commission's, the salary commission's report. Like the Department of Budget and Department of Budget and Finance is led by the Director of Budget and Finance, the Finance Director. So that is similarly the Attorney General's office, while described as an office, is really a department within the executive branch. So I think those also fall within that, but I also don't think that the statute limits the department heads or executive officers, right? It's those established by law, not necessarily those under the executive office. So in terms of the kind of looking at the two reference points together, we have HRS 10-11, right, which provides for this board to establish the salary of the OHA administrator. And then we also have the commission, the salary commission's report, which explicitly includes certain positions that they are responsible for setting salaries for. But the OHA administrator is not included in that list. So that's also why, it's not referenced, nor is it's defined in terms of tier levels. It's just not what is a position that is within the purview of the salary commission. But that's by statute and how they're charged to do their work. So it really leaves that decision to the board. But the employment contract links OHA's review of the administrator's salary in relation to, right, in line with the salary commission's report. So that's how the salary commission's report is relevant to this board's determination of the administrator's compensation, and that making those increases to be in line with, but not necessarily, exactly following or, tied to a specific tier level. Those are all decisions within this board's, discretion and authority.
Real quick, Corey, if you don't mind. Mr. Chair, I think it's important to note as well, kind of like OHA, right? The EGA administration did not, right? The salary commission was put together. Now we got tier 1, tier 2 increases. It's important to note that when the OHA CEO contract was put together, at that time was CEO, now it's administrator, but at that time, we were ahead of the game. That $200,000 was ahead. I think at that time, if you looked at director, I think it was about 20,000 less. It was 170 something, 76 maybe around there. So that's important to know that when OHA put together that contract, and I don't know who put together that contract, but I've seen that contract and I know that contract very well. It's important to note that we were ahead. So now they have the salary commission and now they're up with us now, right? Technically, give or take. But that being said, This is a HR recommendation, right? The memo is from HR. And the recommendation is a tier 2. But to me, that's a range. After doing more due diligence, obviously, the memo came out from Corey, and maybe Corey can have his time. But that being said, at the end of the day, we don't have to follow tier 1, tier 2, like was mentioned earlier. But to me, that's a range. Whether it's obvious that some people want tier 1, right? I hear it being personal sometimes. For me, it cannot be personal, right? We like our current CEO, we don't like our current CEO, whatever it may be. It cannot be based on that. It is a position, and we're trying to align it with the state, right? We're being reasonable, we're being prudent. And so for me, that's just a range that can, I mean, we're going to continue to have this discussion. So anyway, I guess, Mr. Chair, mahalo for your time.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, Corey.
Well, trustees, chair, vice chair, I guess maybe what I'll start off with is in response to what Chair Emerita had mentioned about the 2 memos. Chair is correct that initially, as well as Chair Emerita, initially when I did review it, my initial recommendation and thoughts was that it was aligned with tier 1, but that was also without the additional information that I had received subsequently and my new understanding after I also personally talked with Brenna. And again, she did clarify that her information and her manao is coming from her position with the state, right? And that, it doesn't necessarily apply to Oʻahu, but given her description of the scope and breadth of authority as in relation not only to policy making, but also with regard to the work and kuleana, I reassessed my position and agree that not deputy tier 1 or 2, but that tier 2 would be more appropriate. Part of that deliberation for me also included considering, right, again, equity, looking at where our other executives are already being paid, looking at where her current or the current position's pay was, and trying to balance all of those different considerations, which is also why I landed on the tier 2.
Thanks, Corey.
Mr.
Sure.
I respect all the comments that's been made, but since we do our own salaries, usually the head of the agency is the highest paid. We are out in the public looking for a CFO and offering a salary $50,000 above our CEO. I don't understand how that happened. We have another employee presently working for us that's getting $300,000. I mean, how do we explain that kind of situation to the head of the agency administration? To me, that's unfair. This isn't the top place for people to come and work. Not if there's unfairness like that.
Sure. I turned it off. Part of again, going back to the trying to figure out what the equivalent is a tier 1 director, at least as it exists with the budget and finance director and the state attorney general. Part of their rationale is they have multi-jurisdictional responsibilities across state government, the whole state. Like I said before, the AG represents all 3 branches of government. In reference to the chief of staff position, right? The chief of staff position is the connective tissue between the governor and the directors. And
Administrative director, that's a different position.
I don't think the governor calls
Yeah,
that
he
person the
doesn't.
administrative director. Right, but that position is the link between the governor and the departments. That position doesn't set policy. That position communicates directives from the governor. But in statute, those department directors have statutory power to set policies within their departments. So that, I think, is clear to understand. This position is a function of being the connective tissue between the gov and the directors. They don't set policy. They go back and forth between information, but they don't set policy. And a department director, DLNR, DHERD, cannot be overrode by the chief of staff. Probably can be overrode by the governor, but not by the chief of staff. Right. Sure. Right. So our administrator does not set policy, broad policy. This board sets policy and can override any policy that is set. Name me a situation where we have no say over this organization. There is none.
Nobody under us is gonna have a no say.
Right.
You know.
Sure.
So
That's
if we see our administrator doing something we don't agree, and maybe that person feels they have the authority to do that policy. We can stop that instant.
right.
You know.
Sure.
So I think it works the same way as the governor, but we are the governor here. 9
Yes.
people
Yeah.
are the governor here.
100% agree.
So, and that makes us stronger than the UH,
Sure.
DOE, because they're not elected.
Right.
You know? So for us to diminish our CEO, I think we should raise that person up.
Okay. Which I'm more convinced that we don't even equate any tier at all to the Oʻahu administrator. Well, it came up because we had to figure out some type of step increase in line with this report because it's in this contract. Right, that doesn't have to be in future contracts, but it's in this one. So like Vice Chair said, this current contract pays the administrator $200,000 a year. This contract provides for step increases in line with this report. And unless it's this board, the board has an option, right? It can decrease the salary. It can keep the salary the same or increase the salary. If we're going to increase it, what are we going to increase it to? And you have to refer back to this report because that's what the contract says. So how do we find some type of ballpark in here that can, from a financial and fiduciary perspective, rationalize what that inline step increase would be? Can't just come up with a pie in the sky number. Yeah.
See?
We can.
You know, 15% plus 4%. That's what I've been seeing in all the stuff that I've been reading. Just give the CEO the same thing.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I think part of it too, and Mr. Chair, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and Corey, you know, Chair Merida, you and I were part of an ad hoc committee, right? And the whole point of looking into DHERD was to find some kind of common ground in alignment with the state of Hawaii. So for consistency purposes, I think that's what this recommendation is here. Like you said, we don't have to stick to it.
Sure.
And you're convinced that it's not, and maybe we can convince the rest of the board that tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
No need to.
I mean, who knows? Some of you may want to keep it the same. I mean, for that matter, we're not going to do that, right? But at the same time, it's important to know, I think this report, because you asked why is this report even here, is to get some kind of knowledge or
It's
based
just
on.
trying to establish a baseline.
Yeah, a base. I
Or an
think that's all it
inline
is.
step increase.
That's all it is.
I was confused.
Sure. Right. His final recommendation is a tier 2 director, and it's from what I'm hearing, he still stands by that recommendation. At the end of the day, that is a recommendation, and that is up to this board to decide what that recommendation would be. Trustee Aquino?
Thank you, Chair. And with your comment, I'll start by responding to Corey's statement earlier. Corey mentioned equity as being the principle by which he came to the decision as to what tier to state as equivalent to the status of the CEO. And I understand and respect equity, and I appreciate it tremendously in the director of our Human Resources Department, which must ensure equity throughout the organization. I commend Corey for having that commitment, but I want to point out that Corey, while excellent in the role he plays, is not a trustee. And we as trustees look at equity and a good number of other values, such as alakai, leadership, when we decide the salary of the one individual that the HR department does not preside over, superintend over for salary. We're looking for, in our CEO administrator, our kapuhana, the highest level of management talent that is available to serve the vision of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The potential is incredible as we look to the future, and we must attract and retain the highest level of talent. Equity is not the issue. In fact, if we are to look at other organizations, recently Civil Beat published Queen Liliuokalani salaries. The CEO there is about $500K. We look at state offices, people are being paid at a certain level for going into public service, and we recognize that our CEO is in public service, but we're competing in order to get the best and highest talent. So I would suggest that that not be the principle, equity not be the principle, but what will empower the board to be able to get the best talent. With regard to the scope of the kapuhana CEO of OHA, it is as statewide as any government official. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs has to appoint a point person to carry out representing us as the principal public agency with coordinating and advocacy duties across all agencies of the government, and is also our liaison with military. HRS 10.3 gives this very broad scope of what we do. We are the principal agency for the state for Native Hawaiian programs. It's our CEO who is the point person in administering those programs. We have activities that are statewide. We assess the policies and practices of other agencies that impact Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians. It's not any one of us on the board who goes to all the other agencies and assesses their impact on Native Hawaiians. And with respect to one of our highest priorities now, which is the fair and proper payment to the Hawaiian people from the Public Lands Trust, we have to establish an inventory of federal, state, and county and private programs. As a clearinghouse, our point person is going to be engaged at every level of government and society. So with respect to even one of the criteria that is used by the Salary Commission the position that we're looking at has broad duty across the entire state. So I'm very convinced that if we're not looking at personality, if we're not looking at the who is in this position and even looking at who we are, but if we're looking at the position that we want for this organization and its future, it's going to be a leader at a level that is at tier 1 or beyond and should not be confined to what the salary commission says. Thank you.
Trustee Galtier?
Thank you, Chair. In summary, this is just a guide, right? We're not tied to this.
Nope.
Not at all.
You're tied to it via a inline step increase.
Okay.
That's what you are tied to.
So the next step would be to eliminate that next time around,
Absolutely.
right? And what kept on, coming through my head was semi-autonomous. Because we want to line up, but we really don't want to line up completely, which would in some way infringe our semi-autonomous position as the Native Hawaiian entity within the Lahui, right? So certainly I agree that, the numbers have to bring the best and the brightest to us, and this is just simply a starting position.
Yep.
So what's the next step then?
I think, well, clearly, we shouldn't have this language in this contract. That is taking away our self-determination. So that was a mistake. Can't help it. It is what it is. Worry about it on the next one. In terms of this, I think not quantifying the OHA administrator with any position of any of the branches of government and tying this board and future boards and future administrators to a particular tier would be the best thing to do. And you just focus on the salary increase. And I think we send that back to Budget and Finance.
Thank you.
You come up with a number,
Yes.
you write an action item, and you determine and rationalize how you got to that number and make sure this board can agree with that decision. That's
Thank you.
that's one way to do it.
And Chair, also, when you are doing the due diligence and you're going to come back with a number there, there are other entities that reflect our mission as well that perhaps you might want to take a look at. I mean, there are other native entities that perhaps are similar to our model. But I'm just suggesting that as you start your round. Okay? Okay, mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I mean yes, your starting point is what the current contract is, because I think we can all agree it's not going down. And I think we probably can agree that it can't stay the same. There should be an inline step increase, and the only ones that would be below by $700 or a few would be a tier 1 deputy or tier 2 deputy. Those would be below the current threshold set in the contract. So you have to have a baseline. You can't just bring back any number to us. You have to be able to have a foundational baseline that you can justify, not just for the 9 of us, but for our entire Lahui. So that's your charge. How you get to whatever other number that is, whether it's the president of the University of Hawaii or the head football coach or the CEO of Kamehameha Schools or a Queen Liliuokalani Trust or a tier 1 director in the state of Hawaii. Like, you got to be able to determine what that is. And I think it has to be reasonable, and you need to be able to justify it. Sure.
a number that, a position that we have here that only oversees one department, our CFO, it's at 250,000. What is it? I'm a little confused on a position of that nature compared to the incredible broad oversight that our CEO's position encumbers and the pay.
That's your job.
Okay, thank you for that. I needed to assure that I can work with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
It will
good.
also, whatever the number that lands on, will include retroactive pay to 1 July, and should also contemplate an additional increase in 1 July 2026, because that's what this report calls for as well, a 4% increase in 2026. So rather than having to bring this back to the board in the summer of next year,
No.
let's just take care of it now.
Yeah.
And then the other aspect of potential salary adjustments is performance-based evaluations. And there's 2 pending before the board.
Yeah. So if I can add to that, Mr. Chair. So there's 2 evaluations, right? The first evaluation, so keep that in mind, because with the second evaluation, we can also talk about a potential step increase from there as well. Corey, is that correct? First excuse me? Yeah. Is due tomorrow?
Probably, no?
Didn't you send a memo with the Friday as a deadline?
Yeah, for the interviews. It's not the deadline. It's not. Actually, I'm not gonna discuss, we can talk about that offline because it's not on the agenda. So we'll discuss that separately. But important to keep in mind, right? Because the evaluation is a second component basically for this process. I mean, you're gonna be doing the work, so I look forward to your report and we'll go from there, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Trustee Waihe? No? Sounds like we've landed on a pathway forward. Yeah. For Corey, I want to just mahalo you for the work that you did, because maybe at the end of the day, we shouldn't have taken that path of having you try and determine what that tier would be and what that potential increase would be, because that power to set the salary is with the board. And so that was at my direction, and we, on many occasions on this board table in a public setting, we've asked for that, and maybe that was the wrong approach. But regardless, I really want to mahalo you for the work that you did and the due diligence you put into that. But and of course the chair can utilize Corey as a resource for that. But I think at the end of the day, it's not really required.
No. Chair, I also want to mahalo Corey, because I know he's in a tough spot with all these, adjustments that we're wanting to make as a board. So mahalo, Corey.
Mr. Chair. Yes, sir.
I would like to withdraw my original motion.
Yeah. Would you like to defer this motion? Defer the action item?
I would like to defer the action.
Okay.
item,
We
Mr.
have
Chair.
we need a second. I like his motion. Any discussion on deferring this action item? We will refer it back to the Committee on Budget and Finance, and Chair Lapa, we will anxiously await your recommendation for consideration by this board. Unanimous consent on the deferral? Fantastic. We're moving on. Great work, everyone. Really glad we had this discussion. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Everett. Okay. Let's move on to community concerns and celebrations. Do we have anyone signed up to speak on this agenda item?
Yes, we have one person signed up. We have Jermaine Myers.
Okay. Hi, Jermaine. Welcome.
Aloha, Honorable Trustees.
Aloha.
My name is Jermaine Myers. Mahalo for the opportunity to express my community concerns. I want to address OHA's biennial budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027, which the board approved on Monday, June 30th, 2025. According to Kapohana Stacey Ferrer's contract included in today's packet, her professional responsibilities as the CEO include, number one, developing for board approval OHA's biennial budgets, which reflect operations, program plans, and budget realignments consistent with the strategic plan, board policies, and all applicable laws and regulations. And number two, developing OHA's budget in accordance with the Native Hawaiian Trust Fund spending policy, mission, strategic direction, and applicable laws. However, the final biennial budget that came before this board on June 30th, 2025 was not developed by Kapohana Ferreira. Instead, it was developed by the BOT chair and his staff, something that was confirmed directly to me by the chair staff. This raises serious concerns because under HRS Chapter 10, Section 10-14.5 on budget preparation and submission, the law clearly states that the board shall provide opportunities for beneficiaries in every county to participate in the preparation of each biennial and supplemental budget. These opportunities must also include an accounting by trustees of funds expended and the effectiveness of programs undertaken. So I ask, when did this board provide multiple opportunities for beneficiaries in every county to participate in the preparation of the final budget that came before this board? And when did trustees provide an accounting of funds expended and the effectiveness of its programs? The reality is that this budget was developed by the BOT chair, not the CEO and administrator. That is both a violation of OHA's governing framework and a conflict of interest in direct contradiction to the Hawaii State Ethics Code and the state constitution, which clearly define the role of the CEO as OHA's administrator. Kia kuapū, God bless all of you.
Lehu, anyone else?
No one else has signed up to speak.
Okay, let's move on to announcements. Trustees, do any of you have announcements that you'd like to share?
I do.
Go for it.
Okay.
Trustee
So,
Lapo.
this is outside of anything with our board, but this has a lot to do with our lahui and some of the members, our beneficiaries. I would like to announce there is a new show coming out that's good. That is all about showcasing our young adults in the show called Oʻahu Shores. And it's a lot to do with the way in which our young adults today live in the technology challenged world, how they incorporate their cultural heritage or into their daily lives and so forth. And it's going to debut on October 9th, everyone. And one of the cast members happens to be my son. And we'd love to have you guys check it out. It's going to be funny. I'm dying to see it too. I said, just don't make us embarrass her. But anyway, so, but anyway, just want to announce that. And there's a, thank you for that. And so, mahalo.
Thank you so much, Trustee Lapa. Trustees, any other announcements?
Yes, I would.
Oh, Trustee Akaka.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank everybody that made the Oʻahu Island community meeting on September 23rd possible. It was an amazing turnout. And in my observation and from what I've been told, that's one of the best attended meetings we've seen yet. And so much so that the room was filled and there were those overflowing the room to the outer areas. And we had really nice site visits as well prior to that. And we made history in the sense where it was the first televised live stream via Olelo for this meeting, as well as featuring of the availability and printing of the Hawaiian registry card program as well.
Thank you,
Mahalo
Trustee Akaka.
to make it possible.
Trustees, any other announcements?
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you say that Olelo was going to start covering our meetings?
I believe it's the October 15th Standing Committee Day, Wednesdays, when Olelo will be here full force.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a few announcements to make. The Alakai nominations for our staff. Guess there was a glitch in the latter part of September and some staff were not able to log on to the portal. So we've extended that. The new date is gonna be Friday, October 10th. So next week, Friday, for our staff to submit and recognize outstanding employees and managers at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, October 10th, Friday. CNHA, Hawaiian Council, we're coming. Big presence in Seattle. And there's a couple really important things that OHA will be doing. One of them is on Wednesday, October 8th, day 2, is our two, I have the honor of delivering a keynote address at the beginning of the convention on Wednesday, October 8th. But more importantly, in the afternoon, from 1:30 to 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, OHA is hosting 2 breakout workshops. The first one is called From Ceded to Seated, Advancing Justice and Fulfilling Native Hawaiian Rights in the Public Land Trust. This workshop, sponsored by OHA, will be moderated by Dr. Kehaulani Watson, and it will be the panelists on that will be our very own Chair Emerita, Hulu Lindsay, and also OHA's Chair and Representative on the Public Land Trust Working Group, along with Dr. John Osorio and the Director of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, and also the Chair of the Board of Land and Natural Resources, Don Chang. That's going to be really good. We look forward to that. The second workshop is going to be a workshop that is led by our strategies and implementation team, led by our Senior Director, Elena Fardin, who will be moderating a panel titled From Land Back to Home Building. This is will be focused on indigenous control of housing futures. And that will be moderated by Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation, Elena Fardin. And on that panel will be Annie Arona from the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, specialist in the NAHASDA program. Our very own Pony Askew, one of our directors in strategy and implementation, and also our subject matter specialist in the AHO program, as well as Harry Lake, who is a Kanaka developer here in Hawaii. So those are the 2 workshops that OHA will be featuring for the convention. And we will be there starting Monday or late Sunday for some of us through Thursday when we return home. And we look forward to that. For our Lahui watching in Seattle or that we will be attending, we are bringing the Hawaiian Registry Card program devices. And so if you do not have a Hawaiian Registry Card and you are Native Hawaiian, then we want to be able to, on site, verify your Native Hawaiian ancestry and print you a Hawaiian Registry Card. But it is important that you bring your ancestral verification documents. We can do your application on site, but we do need one of those documents to verify eligibility and get you a card. So that will also be there as well. Anyone have anything else to say regarding the Hawaiian Council's convention? Okay. We also have our kind of an early announcement, but our Civic Club convention at the end of the month. And for the first time ever, the OHA Board of Trustees and our standing committees will be convening at the Association of Hawaiian Civic Club convention on Wednesday, October 29th at the Outrigger Keaho in Kona at 1:00 p.m. So that's coming up, followed the following week by our Hawai'i Island site visit. And then I'd also like to note that yesterday, a OHA staff-wide survey went out to our staff that has 16 questions and an opportunity to get a good pulse on where we are with our staff at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And that will close on October 17th. So if our staff is encouraged to participate, it'd be much appreciated. Finally, our standing committees of beneficiary advocacy and empowerment, budget and finance, and investments land management will be convening on Wednesday, October 15th, starting at 9 a.m. to be broadcast on Olelo, state, at least Oahu-wide. And then following the next day on Thursday, October 16th, will be the meeting of the Board of Trustees. That's all the announcements I got. Anyone else? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Trustees discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galuteria. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahehe. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 8 yes votes. We are adjourned.
Mahalo.